Today I will be talking about fads in American history. Americans are materialistic and have been throughout history, and fads are a way to express Americans' desire for wealth and power. The decade of the Regency era and then the Victorian era showed off different styles in American fashion. American culture helped shape these styles as in this decade fashion was used to provide a bridge between the classic high-waisted empire styles of the early 19th century and the large sleeve full skirted styles of the mid-19th century. However, these fashion trends prior to being uniquely American were European styles, and fashion was used as a way to define a person's wealth and status because they knew of the culture in Britain. Americans in the early 18th century were not accustomed to commercial fashion, while Britain was, and later Americans began to borrow and replicate their clothing. Period 5 was a transition period in many ways for the American people. The nation began to industrialize, and in this time period there was great economic and social changes as the Civil War vastly altered American life. Great heroes and villains emerged from the Civil War, but what connected these dignitaries was their facial hair. Beards became a great symbol of leadership and power during the Civil War that defined what it meant to be an American man. This fad can also relate to earlier periods where dignified men wore wigs in court to represent power just as they did in England. However, beards were a unique American fad unlike the wigs that their ancestors wore. Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. The bike started to create much faster, smoother rides, and thus the bike craze was born. Bikes did not necessarily signify wealth, however, it displayed people's infatuation with a material object, which is a uniquely American feature. The bikes did in fact help lead to a greater emphasis on building nicer roads and a concentrated effort to build cities. But this fad was really about owning a thing, not about the benefits that it brought to other Americans. The 20s was a time of consumption and a want for money and material goods. Flagpole sitting fit the times well as people would sit up on these poles for hours to amass fame and fortune. Apparently, during the 20s, flagpole sitting was such a fad that one could actually make money off of it. When the Depression hit, flagpole sitters would sit for entertainment during the dark period. The video is an actual primary source of a flagpole sitting event. What started out as a goofy thing for frat brothers became an instant sensation as car stuffing blew up across America. Americans treated their cars like toys, as it was the culture to flaunt what you have. I decided to gather some people and pretend like we were back in the 50s. Birds sing, let it rock. Everybody let it rock. Everybody